Ernie Reynolds spent more than 25 years as a high school basketball referee, calling 5 state tournaments, and holds the distinction of calling the last state tournament at Huff Gymnasium and the first ever state tournament at Assembly Hall. On the flip side, Cory Hastings is a 17-year-old high school senior at Pinckneyville and a licensed IHSA official. Today we look at old school, new school, as we reminisce with Reynolds and look back at his prestigious career and talk to Hastings about his first season of wearing the stripes.
Basketball kept me close to young people and the people. I like people, and it sure put me out in front of all the people, you know. And as a fella says, I've known from Chicago to Carroll and booed from Chicago to Carroll. I was very fortunate because I had some of the 4 or 5 of the best teachers of basketball officiating and football officiating that ever put on a shirt. I don't care to name them. Mr. Ernie Driggers, Mr. Ted Search Sr., little Jimmy McCoskey, Claudia Rhodes. Those are the guys that taught you the finer points of officiating.
You worked during an era mainly with 2-man crews, and you talked about Wayne Bollinger and how important he was that you worked together as a team. Talk about your relationship with him. I
started officiating, and I said, Wayne, why don't you get your license and come and we'll work together. Oh, I said, I don't want no official. I said, I don't know, I wouldn't even know what to blow a whistle. And I said, you'll learn right real quick. So he did. We just hooked up and we just traveled together. We were a team. In fact, it got so bad that some of these schools wouldn't let us. They said, well, we'll hire you, but we're going to split you up. And I said, no, if you hire us, you're going to hire us together.
How many games on average would you work a year?
Oh gosh, I'd probably work 3 a week, and besides the tournaments.
Did you ever miss a call?
Yeah.
Did you talk to the coach about it?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I was man enough to tell him, you know, that I fouled up on it, you know. And it was on a free throw, and the ball didn't hit the ring. And I let it go, you know. And he questioned me about it, and I said, yeah, I said, I've missed it. And I said, it'll never happen again. I'll guarantee you that. What
advice for a young man starting out officiating right now, brand new career, what advice would you give him or her?
Well, first of all, I'd want you to have a real interest in basketball itself. And officiating is the toughest thing in the world you can go into right off the bat, for a young man especially. But like I mentioned before, I was very fortunate because I had some older fellows that had been in the game. Some of them had refereed when I was in high school.
Ernie, you made the comment, basketball's been good to me. Tell us what that statement means.
Well, it's one of the great things that happened to me in my lifetime. First of all, I married a good woman, and I've got a great family, and I've had the privilege of working the basketball and working for a lot of great coaches and seeing a lot of great kids, and I wouldn't take anything in the world for it. And most of them that were great athletes turned into good citizens, good people, because they had the proper training, what to expect from life itself. Basketball teaches you a lot of things.
White, 35, on the arm, 2 shots.
Cory, most 17-year-old high school seniors are not interested in high school officiating. What prompted you to hang a whistle on and begin a career as a sports official?
Well, my dad, he officiated for 15 years, around that, maybe more, and he talked to me about getting into officiating. And then I'd talk to some other guys, and they'd say, what's the chances of you playing in college, or even one day playing in the pros? And I said, well, that's probably not going to happen. And they said, well, you can referee as long and get as high as you want to, if you work hard in that. So I thought about that for a while, and then I just went ahead and to got my license to do it, and just went from there.
Talk about the first time out, particularly basketball, where the crowd's kind of on top of you and maybe you're closer quarters. A little bit intimidating the first time out?
Yeah, a little bit. It was a junior high game, so there wasn't as many fans. But then, you know, the gyms are kind of smaller, and you can hear anything that everybody says. So, you know, you hear more guys say it's easier to do that game at sectional final that the gym's full, and you can't hear everybody that complains or has a complaint, rather than that gym that has, you know, 10 or 15 fans where a guy can stand up and he can kind of really single himself out and hear every word that everybody says. I'm in the Southern Illinois Basketball Officials Association, the Egyptian Officials Association out of Carterville. There's veteran officials in each one of those that I try to talk to, or I'll, you know, on the phone, try to talk to somebody each week, or email, or just try to keep in contact. What can I do different? Maybe try to have some guys come watch a game and then talk to me, you know, at halftime and then after the games. What could I have done here, or what could I have done different there? You know, you can go out there and after the done, fan will say, "Man, you did a good job tonight." But then you can go in, and when you sit down with that official, they can say, "You think you could have went out and not got straight lined? You could have maybe got a better angle." You know, everybody says officiating is all about angles, where you can, you know, if you can, and always hustle. They say, tell coaches, you may not always agree with my, you know, judgment tonight, but I can give you 100% tonight. You know, always hustle and be in position, and most of the time you're not going to get too many complaints.
Caesar, when I came up with the idea on this story, I think what prompted it was kind of unique. I'm reading the obituary column in the newspaper one day, and I see that Ford Peebles has passed away. Well, Ford Peebles was a name I recognized as a kid growing up watching high school basketball. He had been a long-time official. I read through the obituary, and there was one sentence that talked about his career as a high school sports official. And when I heard about Cory Hastings, only 17 years old, already officiating, I thought, how neat would that be to contrast that? And I knew Ernie Reynolds is a fan of the magazine, so I contacted Ernie, and I thought, I want to document his thoughts. I want to get his thoughts on, not only in the magazine, but on this show, talking about his career as a sports official. And I think when we got a chance to talk to both of them on the same afternoon, it was very unique.
To sit down with Ernie, like you say, on the same day and hear him reminisce and share with us stories about his learning process and what he had done as a referee, to then go and see a young man who's only 17 years old actually get out on the floor and show maturity that you know, totally amazed me. That was quite a juxtaposition of events there, and of individuals, rather, that we saw in one day.
I think the thing that stood out to me about Ernie and our visit with him is that he still, at 82 years old, has a great respect for the game, and he talks a lot about what basketball gave to him and what being an official gave to him. So there's a great respect there, and that certainly is something you have to respect talking to him, just the way he feels about it. On the flip side, when we talked to Cory Hastings, I thought it was very interesting the fact that he's not a kid that knows it all. He's a kid that will tell you quickly that he's seeking out answers and advice from older officials. And I think that's very important, Caesar, that he goes into this with the frame of mind he's got. He'll be a great official someday.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Like I say, when I actually videotaped him at a game later that evening at Christopher, I was amazed with the maturity the young man showed on the floor.
Last year we covered a story about the shortage of officials in Southern Illinois, perhaps a shortage of basketball officials. But if Cory Hastings is what the future looks like, then I think the future for high school basketball officials in Southern Illinois is very bright.